President Alan Carter looked out the window of his spacecraft as it approached the massive space station. The structure floated in orbit around Proxima Centauri b, the headquarters of the Galactic Council. Even after 5 years as Earth's leader, the sight of alien architecture still amazed him. The station's twisting spires and glowing energy fields showed how far ahead alien technology was compared to human efforts. "We're being directed to Docking Bay 7, Mr. President," said the pilot. Carter nodded. He straightened his blue suit and touched the small pin on his lapel, the flag of the United Earth Federation. This meeting with the Zalaxian Empire would decide the future of humanity in space. Last month, the Empire had stopped all human ships from trading with outer colonies. They claimed humans were spreading too quickly among the stars. "Remember, sir," said Frank Miller, his security chief, "the diplomatic team will be waiting inside. Ambassador Davis says the Zalaxians seem tense." "They're always tense, Frank. They've ruled most of the galaxy for 10,000 years. They don't like that we've managed to settle 15 star systems in just 50 years. The ship docked with a soft thud. When the doors opened, a group of 8-foot-tall aliens waited for them. The Zalaxians had blue-gray skin that seemed to shimmer under the lights. Their 4 eyes blinked in different patterns, and the tentacles around their mouths moved as they spoke. "President Carter," said one in perfect English, "I am Sub-Commander Zextra. You will follow me to the council chamber." Carter noticed there were more guards than normal. Usually, diplomatic meetings had 2 or 3 guards. Today, there were at least 20 lining the hallway. He caught Frank's eye, and his security chief gave a small nod. He had noticed, too. "Can my security team come with me?" Carter asked. "No," said Zextra. "The Grand Emperor has ordered that. You come alone." Frank stepped forward. "That's against protocol. The president must have—" "It's all right, Frank," Carter interrupted. "I'll be fine." He lowered his voice. "If anything happens, make sure Vice President Miller knows everything." Carter followed the Zalaxian down the long hallway. His heart beat faster with each step. Something wasn't right. The normal diplomats weren't here to greet him. Instead of going to the usual meeting rooms, they took an elevator up to a level he had never visited before. The doors opened to reveal an enormous chamber. Thousands of aliens from different species sat in rising circles around a central platform. Carter recognized the room from videos. This was the Grand Assembly, where the Zalaxian Empire made announcements to all the galaxy. In the center stood Grand Emperor Vostar himself. The Emperor was taller than other Zalaxians. His skin had a purple tint, and he wore metal armor with glowing symbols. The 4 tentacles around his mouth were decorated with gold rings. "President Alan Carter," the Emperor's voice boomed through the chamber. "Step forward." Carter walked to the center of the platform. Every step echoed in the quiet room. Thousands of eyes watched him. "You expected trade negotiations," said the Emperor. "There will be no negotiations." Carter kept his voice steady. "Your empire has blocked Earth ships without cause. We have followed all galactic laws. We have—" "Silence." The Emperor's voice shook the room. "Humans are a virus upon the stars. You breed too quickly. You take too many resources. You question too many traditions." Cameras floated around them. With a shock, Carter realized this was being broadcast across the galaxy. "Your Earth Federation is hereby dissolved," continued the Emperor. "All human colonies will come under direct imperial control. Earth itself will be governed by an imperial regent." Carter stood straight. "The people of Earth do not accept this. We are a sovereign species with rights under the Galactic Charter that your own ancestors signed." The Emperor moved closer. "The Charter applies to civilized species, not to animals who learned to fly only a century ago." "We may be new to the stars," Carter said, his voice rising, "but we have the same right to exist as any species. If you think—" The Emperor's hand moved in a blur. A bright beam shot from a weapon hidden in his armor. The energy blast hit Carter in the chest. He fell to his knees, feeling a burning pain spread through his body. "Let this be a lesson," Vostar said, looking directly into the cameras. "This is what happens to those who do not know their place in our empire." He fired again. Carter collapsed, As darkness closed in, his last thought was of Earth, of the mountains near his home in Colorado, of his wife and children. He hoped they would be strong for what was coming. On Earth, in the Situation Room below the White House, Vice President Susan Miller watched the broadcast with the Joint Chiefs of Staff. The room was completely silent. On the screen, the Emperor turned away from Carter's body as if disposing of trash. "The human experiment in self-governance is over," Vostar announced. "Imperial ships are already moving to your colonies. Surrender, and you will be allowed to live as servants. Resist, and you will be eliminated." The broadcast cut off. For several seconds, nobody spoke. General Patricia Jones, head of the Space Force, was the first to break the silence. "Madam Vice President," she said, her voice shaking with rage, "you are now the President of the United States and the Earth Federation." Susan Miller stared at the blank screen. Her hands gripped the edge of the table so hard her knuckles turned white. "They killed him," she whispered. "They executed Allen on live broadcast to humiliate us." Admiral John Hayes, commander of Earth's defense fleet, stood up. He was a tall man with gray hair and eyes that had seen too many battles. "They think we'll be scared," he said. "They think we'll surrender." He slammed his fist down on the table. "They've just made the biggest mistake in their 10,000-year empire." Miller looked around the room. "How many ships do we have ready?" 47 in Earth orbit," answered Hayes. "Another 32 spread across our colonies. But they won't be enough against an Imperial fleet." "What about Project Nemesis?" asked Miller. The room went quiet again. Project Nemesis was top secret. A fleet of experimental ships built using reverse-engineered alien technology from a crashed Zalaxian scout ship 15 years ago. General Jones spoke carefully. "The prototypes are ready. We have 12 ships, with stealth capabilities and weapons the Zalaxians don't know we have." "And the special projects?" Miller asked. "The biological and technological countermeasures?" Dr. Helen Ward, head of the Defense Science Division, nodded. "We've been preparing since first contact, Madam President. We always feared this might happen." Miller stood up. Outside the windows, the sky was blue and peaceful. In a few days, alien ships would arrive to enslave humanity. The Empire expected humans to beg for mercy. "Send word to all colonies," she said. "Tell them to appear to cooperate but prepare for resistance. Activate all sleeper agents in alien territories. Launch Project Nemesis." She took a deep breath. "And prepare a broadcast for Earth. People need to know what happened and what's coming." As the officials rushed to follow orders, Miller looked one last time at the screen where she had watched her friend die. "They think they know humans," she said quietly. "They have no idea what we're capable of when pushed." Across Earth, millions of people who had watched the broadcast were already gathering in streets and town squares. As the news spread, shock turned to anger, and anger to resolve. The aliens had killed Earth's president. They were coming to take Earth's freedom. But humanity was not going to surrender. A war unlike any the galaxy had ever seen was about to begin. 3 weeks passed after the execution of President Carter. The Zalaxian Empire expected Earth to surrender. Imperial ships moved toward human colonies, ready to take control. But the Empire did not understand humanity. Commander Kate Freeman stood on the bridge of the EFS Shadow, the first of Earth's new stealth ships. The vessel was small compared to Imperial warships, but it had technology the aliens didn't know humans possessed. Its hull absorbed scanning signals instead of reflecting them. Its engines left no heat trail. It was invisible to alien sensors. "Status report," Freeman said to her crew. "All systems green," replied Lieutenant Dan Morris from the weapons station. "Nanite warheads armed and ready." "Stealth systems at full power," added Officer Joe Kelly. "We're completely invisible to their scanners." Freeman nodded. She was 38 years old with short brown hair and eyes that had seen too much war on Earth before humans reached the stars. Now she would bring war to the heavens. "The other ships are in position," said Communications Officer Laura Green. "Freedom, liberty, justice, and vengeance all report ready." Freeman took a deep breath. 5 ships against an empire that controlled thousands of worlds. But these ships carried humanity's secret weapons, developed over 15 years of studying alien technology. Send the coded message to Earth, Freeman ordered. Operation First Strike is go. The 5 stealth ships moved silently through space. Their target was the massive shipyard orbiting Rigel 4, where the Emperor's prized warships were built. The shipyard was considered untouchable, deep in Imperial territory with hundreds of defense platforms. Approaching target, Morris announced. No signs they've detected us. On the main screen, the shipyard came into view. It was enormous, a web of metal and energy fields where 30 Imperial battleships were under construction. Each of those ships could destroy a human colony. None of them would ever fly. Launch nanite warheads, Freeman ordered. From each human ship, small missiles shot toward the shipyard. They were too small for the Imperial defenses to consider a threat, even if they had been detected. The missiles hit different sections of the shipyard and burst open. Nanites deployed, Morris confirmed, beginning their work. The nanites were microscopic robots based on technology found in the crashed alien ship. They had one purpose: to disassemble metal atom by atom. Within minutes, strange gray patches appeared on the shipyard structures. The patches spread, like a disease consuming everything they touched. Alarms began flashing across the shipyard as the Zelaxians finally realized they were under attack. But it was too late. The nanites worked at the molecular level, breaking down the strongest alloys like they were made of sand. Imperial ships are moving to attack positions, reported Kelly. They've spotted us. Hold position, Freeman ordered. Let them see what happens next. On the screen, the first Imperial battleship began to collapse as the nanites reached its core. The massive vessel seemed to melt, falling apart section by section. Workers fled in escape pods as the gray tide consumed everything. Opening broadcast. Channel on all frequencies, said Green. Freeman stood straight and spoke clearly into the camera. This is Commander Kate Freeman of the Earth Defense Force. You executed our president. You threatened our freedom. This is our answer. She paused, watching as 3 more battleships dissolved into dust. This is for President Carter, and we're just getting started. As Imperial weapons began firing wildly into space, trying to hit the human ships they couldn't properly see, Freeman gave the order to retreat. The 5 ships vanished back into the darkness of space, leaving behind a ruined shipyard and bewildered Zelaxians. On Earth, newly sworn President Susan Miller addressed the United Nations. The Great Hall was packed with representatives from every nation. Screens showed the attack on the Imperial shipyard. Today humanity has struck back, Miller declared. For too long the Zelaxian Empire has seen us as primitive, as weak. They believed we would surrender when threatened. They were wrong. She walked across the stage, her voice growing stronger. Since our first contact with alien life 20 years ago, Earth has been preparing. While we sought peace, we prepared for war. While we traded openly, we studied their weaknesses. The Empire thought humans were simply clever animals who had learned to reach the stars. They failed to understand what drives us, what makes us fight. Behind her, the screen showed Imperial ships dissolving into clouds of metal dust. The nanite technology we deployed today is just one of many weapons we have developed. We have studied Zelaxian biology and found weaknesses. We have analyzed their technology and found flaws. We have infiltrated their networks and stolen their secrets. In orbit above Earth, thousands of workers floated in spacesuits around massive construction platforms. They were building more ships, installing weapons that could target specific frequencies of Zelaxian energy shields. In underground laboratories, scientists tested viruses that could disable Zelaxian soldiers without killing them. A show of force, not genocide. We do not want to destroy the Zelaxian people, Miller continued. We want only our freedom. But make no mistake, we will fight with every tool at our disposal. Humanity will not be enslaved. As she spoke, reports came in from human colonies across space. The Imperial ships that had come to take control were being met with unexpected resistance. Colony defenders used knowledge of local terrain to ambush alien forces. Civilian ships transformed into combat vessels with hidden weapons. On the colony of New Eden, farmers used agricultural machinery modified with alien technology to bring down an Imperial walker. On the mining outpost of Ceres, workers trapped Imperial soldiers in tunnel collapses. Everywhere, humans fought with creativity and desperation. In the asteroid belt of the Tau Ceti system, Dr. Paul Wright worked with a team of scientists inside a hidden base. They monitored transmissions from across the galaxy. "The Imperial response is coming," Wright said, pointing to movement patterns on a holographic display. "They're mobilizing the Third Fleet to attack Earth directly." "How many ships?" asked his colleague, Dr. Amy Lopez. "At least 300. More than enough to overwhelm our conventional defenses." Lopez nodded and turned to a console. "Then it's time to deploy the gravity disruptors. Admiral Reyes needs to know exactly when and where they'll arrive." Across human space, a network of spies and informants, aliens who opposed the Empire's tyranny, began feeding information to Earth. The locations of Imperial fleets, the weaknesses of their commanders, the access codes to their communication systems. In his palace on Zalaxia Prime, Emperor Vostar raged at his generals. The destruction of his prized shipyard was an insult he could not tolerate. "How did primitive humans develop such technology?" he demanded. "Who has been helping them?" The generals had no answers. They had always dismissed humans as barely worth studying, a young species who had developed faster than light travel only 50 years ago. Now they paid for their arrogance. "The Third Fleet will crush their homeworld," Vostar declared. "I want their cities in ruins, their leaders in chains, their spirit broken." What the Emperor didn't know was that his words were being transmitted directly to Earth. Every threat he made strengthened human resolve. Back on the EFS Shadow, Commander Freeman received new orders. Her 5 ships would not return to Earth. Instead, they would strike deeper into Imperial territory. "Our next target is their fuel processing center in the Epsilon Eridani system," she told her crew. "Without it, their Third Fleet will be forced to travel at reduced speed, giving Earth more time to prepare." Lieutenant Morris looked at the star map. "That's very deep in their territory, Commander." Freeman nodded. "That's why they won't expect us to hit it. The Empire thinks in terms of massive fleets and overwhelming force. They don't understand surgical strikes." She smiled grimly. "They're about to learn how humans fight." Across human colonies, civilians prepared for war. They built bunkers, stored food, and trained with weapons. Children were evacuated to hidden locations deep underground or in remote wilderness areas. Everyone understood what was at stake. On the colony world of New Terra, Governor Steve Dixon addressed his people. "The road ahead will be hard," he said. "The Empire will show no mercy, but neither will we. Remember what they did to President Carter. Remember what they planned for all of us. We will fight for our freedom, for our families, and for our future among the stars." As night fell on Earth, President Miller stood at the window of the White House, looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there, Imperial fleets were moving toward human worlds. The first battle had been won, but the war was just beginning. "They think they know what humans are capable of," she whispered. "They have no idea." She turned to Admiral Hayes, who stood waiting with new battle plans. "Show me how we're going to welcome the Third Fleet when they arrive." Hayes smiled as he opened a folder containing details of Earth's orbital defense system, a network of platforms with technology the Zalaxians thought impossible for humans to develop. "With pleasure, Madam President," he said. "I think the Empire is about to receive its second lesson about humanity. 6 months into the war, humanity had shocked the galaxy. The species that many aliens had dismissed as primitive now stood as a serious threat to the Zalaxian Empire. Imperial fleets had been defeated, Imperial worlds had been infiltrated, Imperial pride had been wounded. President Susan Miller stood before representatives from 7 alien species in the underground conference center beneath Geneva. The room was designed to accommodate different atmospheric needs and body types. The blue-skinned Andorians sat beside the insectoid Vespians. The crystalline Lithians glowed softly next to the gaseous Nebulons in their containment suits. "For 10,000 years, Miller said, the Zalaxian Empire has ruled through fear and force. They have taken resources from your worlds. They have limited your technological development. They have executed those who spoke against them. She paused. As they executed our president, the aliens murmured in agreement. Each species had its own story of oppression. Today we propose something new, an alliance of free worlds. Not ruled by Earth or any single species, but a true partnership of equals. Together we can end imperial domination and build a galaxy where all species determine their own destiny. The Andorian representative, Ambassador Shintak, was the first to speak. The humans have proven their worth as allies. Despite their youth among the stars, they have technologies the Empire thought impossible for them. And more importantly, they have shown restraint. They fight for freedom, not conquest. One by one, the representatives voiced their support. Some had already begun rebellions on their homeworlds. Others had secretly sabotaged Imperial operations for years. All saw in humanity a catalyst for change. The alliance was formed that day. Earth would provide military strategy and special technologies. The Andorians would contribute their advanced ship designs. The Vespians offered their unmatched communication networks. Each species brought unique strengths to the fight. Jack Martinez, Earth's newly appointed ambassador to the alliance, emerged from the meeting with a sense of hope. He was a former diplomat who had worked with alien species for 2 decades. Now he would coordinate a multi-species war effort. It won't be easy, he told his assistant as they walked to his office. Different species think differently. They have different priorities, different communication styles, but they all want freedom from the Empire, his assistant pointed out. Martinez nodded. Yes, and that common goal must keep us united, because the Empire will strike back hard. They cannot allow this alliance to succeed. On the Zalaxian homeworld, Emperor Vostar raged at his generals. Reports of rebellions came from a dozen worlds. The defeat of the Third Fleet had emboldened subject species across the galaxy. How did this happen? The Emperor demanded. How did primitive humans not only resist us but inspire others to rebel? The Imperial Science Advisor Zexval spoke, carefully. We underestimated them, Your Majesty. We assumed their rapid advancement must be due to outside help. We never considered that humans might simply learn and adapt faster than other species. The Emperor's 4 eyes narrowed. You sound as if you admire these creatures, Advisor. I study them, Majesty. Their history is unique. Other species evolve slowly, develop technology over thousands of. 1 year had passed since the execution of President Alan Carter. 1 year of war across the stars. 1 year of humanity proving itself against an empire that had ruled for 10,000 years. Now the final battle approached. Emperor Vostar had gathered his remaining loyal forces for an all-out assault on Earth. 500 warships, including his massive flagship, moved toward the Sol system. With them came 3 planet-killer vessels, ships carrying weapons that could crack a world's crust and leave it uninhabitable. In the Alliance Command Center on Europa, Admiral John Hayes studied the holographic display showing the approaching Imperial Armada. They'll be here in 3 days, he told the gathered leaders of the Alliance. This is their last desperate move. The Emperor knows his empire is falling apart. He wants to make Earth an example, to show what happens to those who challenge him. President Susan Miller looked around the room at representatives from 12 alien species. A year ago, most of them had never heard of Earth. Now they stood together against a common enemy. We cannot retreat, she said firmly. If we abandon Earth, other worlds will lose faith in the Alliance. We must make our stand here. The Andorian commander, Tharval, nodded. My fleet will stand with Earth. We have brought our latest shield, technology, though I fear it may not be enough against the planet killers. Similar pledges came from other allies, ships, weapons, and fighters to help defend humanity's homeworld. But despite their brave words, everyone knew the coming battle would be devastating. After the meeting, Miller spoke privately with Dr. William Young, head of a special research division that had been working in secret for months. Tell me you have good news, Doctor, she said. Young was a thin man with tired eyes and hands that never seemed to stop moving. "We've made a breakthrough with the shield technology, Madam President. By combining Andorian energy principles with what we learned from the crashed Xalaxian ship, we may be able to neutralize the planet killers." "May be able to?" Miller asked. Young sighed. "It's untested technology. The theory is sound, but we haven't had time for proper trials. We're building the devices now, but we'll have to test them in actual combat." Miller finished for him. Like everything else in this war, she looked at a picture on the wall, the last official photograph of President Carter before his fateful mission to the Galactic Council. In just 1 year, humanity had advanced technologies that might normally have taken decades to develop. Necessity and survival drove innovation at a pace that shocked even their alien allies. As the Imperial fleet approached, Alliance forces took position. The combined fleet included ships from every member species, human vessels with their gravity, distortion weapons, Andorian cruisers with their advanced shields, Vespian fighters with their impossible maneuverability, and more. They were outnumbered, but they had one advantage the Empire lacked. They fought for freedom, not dominance. On the bridge of the Alliance flagship Freedom, Admiral Hayes addressed his crew. "Today we face the Empire's full might," he said, his voice calm but resolute. "They have more ships, more weapons. They think this makes victory certain. But throughout history, wars have been won not just by those with the most weapons, but by those with the strongest will." He looked at the faces around him, humans and aliens working side by side. "A year ago, they executed our president to teach us our place. Today we will teach them that humans do not submit to tyranny no matter the odds." Across the solar system, defenses were ready. Earth's orbital platforms had been enhanced with Alliance technology. Special shield generators were positioned to protect major cities. Civilians had been moved to underground shelters. Every ship that could fly had been armed and pressed into service. On the Imperial flagship, Emperor Vossithar watched the sensor displays with cold satisfaction. His 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of anticipation in Xalaxians. "See how they gather to defend their homeworld," he said to his officers. "Such loyalty will make their defeat all the more satisfying. First, we will destroy their fleet. Then we will use the planet killers on their colonies. Finally, we will crack Earth itself. Not enough to destroy it completely, but enough to make it uninhabitable. A permanent monument to the price of defiance." The Imperial ships moved into attack formation. At the center of their formation were the 3 planet killers, massive vessels built around weapons that could focus energy into a planet's crust, causing catastrophic tectonic activity. "All ships advance," ordered the Emperor. "Target their largest vessels first." The battle began with an exchange of long-range fire. Energy beams and plasma bolts crossed the void of space. The first casualties were smaller ships caught in the opening salvos. "Enemy approaching optimal weapons range," reported Commander Maria Diaz on the Alliance flagship. "Their planet killers are staying behind the main fleet." Admiral Hayes nodded. "As expected, focus on creating a gap in their formation. All ships with gravity distortion technology. Prepare to execute Maneuver Sierra." The Alliance fleet seemed to give ground, pulling back as if retreating. The Imperial ships pressed forward, eager to claim victory. "They're falling for it," said Hayes with grim satisfaction. Now, 30 human ships activated their gravity distortion fields simultaneously, creating a massive space-time anomaly. The Imperial formation was pulled apart, ships dragged in different directions by forces they couldn't counter. "Alliance forces attack through the gap," ordered Hayes. "Target their command ships." The battle became chaotic, with ships engaged in close combat throughout the outer solar system. The Alliance fleet fought with desperate courage, knowing what defeat would mean not just for Earth, but for all who had defied the Empire. On Earth, Dr. Young and his team monitored the battle from their laboratory deep under the Rocky Mountains. They watched as the Imperial fleet regrouped, the 3 planet killers moving into position near Mars. "They're preparing to fire," Young said, tension clear in his voice. "Activate the shield disruptors. Across Earth orbit, special satellites, powered up. They had been designed for one purpose: to project a specific energy frequency that would interact with the planet killer's main weapons. On the lead planet killer, alarm sounded as systems began to malfunction. "What's happening?" demanded its commander. "Unknown energy signature interfering with the main weapon," reported a Zalaxian technician. "The focusing crystals are destabilizing," the commander hissed in anger. "Impossible! Recalibrate and prepare to fire." But as the planet killer's main weapon powered up, the crystals at its heart shattered, releasing the stored energy back into the ship itself. The vessel broke apart in a massive explosion that damaged nearby Imperial ships. On the Imperial flagship, Emperor Vostar watched in disbelief as one of his most powerful weapons was destroyed by the very prey he had come to annihilate. "How?" he demanded. "How do these humans keep defeating our technology?" His science officer had no answer. The Empire had always assumed its technology was superior, that no lesser species could possibly match it. That assumption was proving fatally wrong. "The other planet killers are holding position, Your Majesty," reported his admiral. "They are attempting to modify their systems to prevent the same malfunction. Send all available ships to protect them," the Emperor ordered. "They are our best hope of victory." The battle continued for hours. Ships from both sides were destroyed or disabled. The void filled with debris and the remains of vessels from a dozen worlds. But slowly, the Alliance gained ground. Imperial ships, designed for overwhelming force, struggled against the more adaptive Alliance vessels. In the midst of the battle, Commander Kate Freeman led a special strike force toward the Imperial flagship. Her ships, the first to strike against the Empire a year ago, now aimed for the Emperor himself. "Target their engines," Freeman ordered. "We don't need to destroy the ship, we just need to disable it." Her vessels moved with precision, firing at specific points on the massive Imperial flagship. Their nanite warheads, now refined for greater effectiveness, began disassembling key components of the ship's propulsion system. On the flagship's bridge, the Emperor felt his vessel shudder as the engines failed. "We are being targeted by human ships," reported his tactical officer. "They appear to be using the same weapon that destroyed our shipyard." For the first time, Vostar felt fear. His ship was crippled. His fleet was being pushed back. The planet killers, his last resort, were unable to deploy their weapons because of human ingenuity. "Prepare my personal shuttle," he ordered. "I will transfer my flag to another vessel." But as he moved to leave the bridge, communication screens activated across the ship. The face that appeared was human. President Susan Miller. "Emperor Vostar," she said, her voice calm but firm. "Your fleet is defeated. Your empire is in rebellion. Surrender now, and we will spare the lives of your crew." The Emperor's tentacles writhed in fury. "You dare to offer me terms? I who have ruled for centuries? You who executed our president without cause," Miller interrupted. "You who threatened to enslave our world? Yes, I dare. Because today, you face the consequences of that mistake." Vostar cut the transmission. "Ready all remaining weapons," he ordered. "If we must die, we will take as many of them with us as possible." Admiral Peter Reyes stood on the command deck of Earth's largest orbital defense platform. Through the viewports, he could see the blue curve of Earth below. Soon, that view would be filled with Imperial warships. "All defense platforms report." "Ready, Admiral?" said his second-in-command, Captain Maria Diaz. "Gravity distortion fields are charged and waiting." Reyes nodded. He was a tall man with dark skin and eyes that had seen too many battles. "And our ships?" "All vessels are in position behind the moon. The enemy won't detect them until it's too late." Reyes looked at the large holographic display showing the approaching Imperial fleet. The third fleet of the Zalaxian Empire was massive. 300 warships, each one capable of destroying a city. They moved in perfect formation, confident in their superiority. "They still think we're fighting a conventional war," Reyes said quietly. "They have no idea what's waiting for them. The gravity distortion technology was Earth's greatest secret weapon. Developed by studying the drive systems of the crashed alien ship, it allowed humans to create focused distortions in space-time. The Zalaxians believed such technology was centuries beyond human capability. "They're entering the outer solar system," reported Diaz. "Estimated time to Jupiter orbit, 6 hours." Reyes touched a communication panel. "This is Admiral Reyes to all Earth forces. Remember the plan, let them come to us. Let them think they have the advantage. Strike only when I give the order." Across the solar system, hidden human ships and defense platforms waited. The plan was simple but dangerous. Let the Imperial fleet come deep into the solar system, then close the trap behind them. On Earth, President Susan Miller sat in the command bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains. With her were the Joint Chiefs of Staff and representatives from major nations. The mood was tense but determined. "The civilian evacuations are complete," reported General Patricia Jones. "All major cities have been emptied. Critical industries have been moved underground." Miller nodded. "And our special weapons?" Dr. Helen Ward, head of the Defense Science Division, answered. "The biological agent is ready. Colonel Howard's infiltration teams are prepared to deploy it to Zalaxian worlds once the battle here is won. The biological weapon was not designed to kill. It was a virus that would temporarily paralyze Zalaxians without causing permanent harm. It was a demonstration of power, not a genocide." "And Dr. Sanchez's team?" asked Miller. "They've completed the final tests. The virus works exactly as designed. It will prove to the galaxy that we could destroy the Zalaxians if we wanted to, but we choose not to." Miller closed her eyes briefly. "Good. We are not fighting to become what they are. We are fighting to remain who we are." In space, the Imperial fleet passed the orbit of Mars. The massive ships moved with arrogant confidence. Their scanners showed only minor defenses around Earth, nothing that could challenge the might of the Third Fleet. "They're in position," Captain Diaz told Admiral Reyes. "All defense platforms are locked on targets." Reyes took a deep breath. "Activate gravity distortion fields. Target their lead ships first." Across Earth orbit, 30 defense platforms activated their main weapons. There was no visible beam, no explosion of energy. Instead, space itself seemed to warp around the lead Imperial ships. The warships suddenly compressed, as if caught in an invisible fist. Metal screamed as hulls buckled under forces they were never designed to withstand. "By the ancestors," gasped an Imperial officer on the Zalaxian command ship. "What is happening?" The Imperial Admiral, a veteran of 100 battles, stared in disbelief as his front-line vessels collapsed like crushed toys. Impossible. Humans cannot have gravity manipulation technology. But the evidence was before his eyes. 20 Imperial warships were already destroyed, crushed by invisible forces that bent space itself. "Launch all fighters," the Admiral ordered. "Target those platforms." Thousands of Imperial fighters swarmed toward Earth's defense platforms. But they were met by human ships emerging from behind the moon, smaller than Imperial vessels but faster and more maneuverable. "This is Captain Linda Rogers of the EFS Defiant," came a transmission across all channels. "Welcome to Earth, Admiral. I believe you were expecting us to surrender." The human ships engaged the Imperial fighters. They moved in unpredictable patterns, using short-range jumps that the Zalaxians had thought impossible for human technology. The main Imperial ship, the Admiral watched in growing horror as his carefully planned attack fell apart. "What are these humans?" he demanded. "How did they develop such weapons?" What the Admiral didn't know was that humans had been studying alien technology for decades. Every trade deal, every diplomatic mission had been an opportunity to learn. When the crashed Zalaxian scout ship was discovered in the Arctic 15 years ago, it had accelerated human development by centuries. "Admiral Reyes," called Captain Diaz, "Imperial ships are regrouping. They're forming a defensive sphere." Reyes nodded. "They're adapting." "Phase 2, Captain." The defense platforms shifted their focus. Instead of crushing ships, they created distortion fields around groups of Imperial vessels, isolating them from each other. The Imperial formation designed to concentrate firepower was now a weakness. "Human ships close in and engage," ordered Reyes. "Target their engines and weapon systems." The battle raged across Earth orbit. Imperial ships, superior in size and number, found themselves outmaneuvered by smaller human vessels. The Zalaxians had always relied on brute force. They were unprepared for human tactics, hit-and-run attacks, coordinated strikes against vulnerable points, and constant communication between ships. Deep in the Zalaxian Empire, another battle was underway. Colonel Greg Howard led a team of human infiltrators onto the agricultural world of Zell Prime. They wore special suits that masked their human scent and heat signature. "Remember," Howard told his team, "we're not here to kill. Plant the canisters in the atmospheric processors and get out. This is about sending a message." The team moved through the alien city, avoiding patrols. They reached the central atmospheric processor, a massive structure that regulated the planet's air quality. Howard placed a small canister into the intake system. "Virus deployed," he reported through a secure channel. "Moving to extraction point. Within hours, the virus would spread through the planet's atmosphere. It would affect only Zalaxians, causing temporary paralysis that would last exactly 3 days. When they recovered, they would find a message playing on all communication systems. We could have made this permanent. We chose not to. End the war." Similar teams were infiltrating 5 other Zalaxian worlds. It was a demonstration of human reach and capability, proof that Earth could strike at the heart of the Empire if necessary. Back in Earth orbit, the battle was turning decisively in humanity's favor. The Imperial fleet had lost 1/3 of its ships, with more disabled or damaged. "Admiral," said Diaz, "we're receiving a transmission from the Imperial command ship." Reyes straightened his uniform. "Put it through." The holographic display showed the Imperial Admiral, a Zalaxian with dark blue skin and the ornate tentacle rings that marked his high rank. "This is Admiral Korvash of the Imperial Third Fleet," the alien said, his voice translated by computers. "I request a temporary ceasefire to discuss terms." Reyes kept his face neutral. "This is Admiral Peter Reyes of Earth Defense Forces. You came to our system to conquer us. What terms could we possibly discuss?" "The withdrawal of my remaining ships," Korvash replied. "You have surprised us, human. Your technology is more advanced than we believed possible. And your arrogance is exactly what we expected," Reyes answered. "But I will grant your ceasefire. You have 1 hour to collect your damaged ships and leave our system. Any vessel remaining after that time will be destroyed." The Imperial Admiral's 4 eyes blinked in different patterns, a sign of confusion in Zalaxians. "You would let us leave, after we came to conquer your world?" "We are not like you," Reyes said simply. "We fight to protect our freedom, not to dominate others. 1 hour, Admiral. Use it wisely." As the transmission ended, Captain Diaz looked at Reyes. "Sir, is it wise to let them go? They'll report our capabilities to the Empire." Reyes nodded. "That's exactly what we want. Let them tell the Emperor that humans are not the easy prey he thought we were. And meanwhile, Colonel Howard's teams will deliver our own message to their core worlds." Across the galaxy, the Galactic Council met in emergency session. The council consisted of representatives from the 20 most powerful spacefaring civilizations, though the Zalaxian Empire dominated its proceedings. "This human resistance cannot be allowed to stand," declared the Zalaxian representative. "They have attacked Imperial territories. They have deployed biological weapons against our people." The representative from the Andorian Federation, a species long subjugated by the Empire, spoke next. "Perhaps the Council should consider that the conflict began with the public execution of the human president, an act that violated our own laws." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Other representatives from species that had been quiet and compliant for centuries began to speak up. "The humans have shown remarkable restraint," noted the Tellarite ambassador. "Their biological weapon caused no permanent harm. They allowed the Third Fleet to retreat rather than destroying it completely."